Hello again, everybody. Today, I'm going to walk through this tutorial, buying images to create a composite with layer masks on adobe.com. This tutorial doesn't have files for you to download, and it can only be done in Photoshop. So because of that, I'm going to click Begin Tutorial in Photoshop and then walk through the steps as the Photoshop tutorial goes on. So let's go. After I clicked Begin Tutorial in Photoshop, it brought me into my Photoshop application, opened up a new window, and gives me this window to start tutorial. I've been a little frustrated with these sometimes because if I close this Discover window, if I only have, not a lot of space on my monitor, it actually closes the tutorial because of the usage rights around this image. So you do have to keep, frustrating as it might be, you do have to keep the Discover window open through the tutorial. All right, blend the deer into the forest. Make sure the layer mask is selected in the layers panel. I'll click the deer layer to select it and then choose select subject. And as you can see, you also have the select subject button down here. They're the same, they do the same thing. What that has done is selected this deer out of the image. This is the automated part of Photoshop that can pick the subject out of a photograph. Because that's selected, we're going to click the layer mask icon. And what that does is masks out everything outside of our selection, right? I selected the subject, which is the deer, and then I clicked on the add layer mask button down here in the bottom right. And what that did was masked out everything that was not in my selection. What's the next step? Select the brush tool. If this tool is already selected, click on another tool and then click back on the brush tool. Well, it's not already selected, so I'll click on the brush tool, or I can touch the B key on my keyboard. Set the brush size to about 80 pixels and the hardness to 0% to create a soft brush. We can open up the brush settings, and it wants an 80 pixel tab to the next field, 0 hardness brush. Click next to continue. Click the icon of small squares to set the default colors. So here, the default colors on Photoshop are black and white, black in the foreground and white in the background. We can switch those by clicking on these two icons, white in the foreground and black in the background. You can also click on the curved arrow icon here to swap the colors. It's telling me now to brush with black over the bottom of the deer's legs. This adds black to the layer mask to hide the legs and blend them into the brush. Click next to continue. So we have a large, soft brush, and we're going to brush it across the bottom of the deer's legs to make it look as if they're disappearing into the brush. It's because the brush is so soft that the edges of the deer's legs will fade out as we brush across them. So here's something I should have reset my Photoshop, but the reason the deer's legs aren't completely disappearing is because I have my brush opacity set at 50% from the last time I was working. So I'm going to reset my brush opacity to 100%, come back to the deer's legs, and just brush across them. Now we've got the deer's legs disappearing into the brush. You can turn on your quick mask mode by touching the pipe key underneath the delete key on the right side of your keyboard. What that does is shows us everything that's masked or shown as black in the mask icon on the layers panel. Let's click next. Turn the branches into antlers. Click the branch layer to select it. Click the empty box to the left of the branch layer thumbnail to make this layer visible, right? We need these eyeballs to be able to see the layers. There are branches. Then we select and choose color range. Make sure sampled colors is selected. Click the white background. Click. Change fuzziness to about 70. You can enter 70, the numbers on your keyboard, or drag the slider, whichever you prefer. Click the invert checkbox. What that means is we want to mask, we are inverting the mask. When we selected the background before, Photoshop now thinks that we want the branches masked out. When we click invert, that will invert the mask that it's going to make for us. Click OK, and then next. Click the add layer mask icon to create a layer mask on the branch layer that is based on the selection. This is the same thing we did with the deer. We selected the branch, and now we're going to make a layer mask around it. Choose Edit, Free Transform. Drag a corner to make the branch smaller. Hover outside a corner and drag clockwise to rotate about 45 degrees. Drag inside the box to move the branch over the left antler. Press Enter to apply. Click Next to continue. So we are going to resize and rotate this branch and then place it over the deer's actual left antler, as in the picture. I'll move the Discover box out of the way. Here we are. I can resize this antler by dragging any of these boxes. It's dragging proportionally now, which you do by pressing down your Shift key. If you hover over any of the corners, you'll get this little arc arrow, and you can click and hold to turn and rotate your transformation box. Still too big, so I'll come up to the top and size down a little. Then I can click and replace it on the deer. And one more time. There. We've resized and rotated the branch and placed it over the deer's left antler. Now we want to duplicate that branch and flip it, transform it to be the right side antler. Now I've made my branch layer selected, and in order to make the right side branch antler, I'll duplicate this left side antler first. So I choose Layer, Duplicate Layer, Branch Copy, OK. Here we have that. With the new branch copy layer selected, choose Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. That means it's going to take this image and flip it horizontally as if you're turning a sheet of paper over. Transform, Flip Horizontal. Now we have our Move tool, and we will take this branch and move it to the right to fit on the other side of the deer's head. Then click Next. That's how you make the deer have flowery branch antlers. Now I want to talk about something else we could do. Let's Command ++ and come up in here a little bit. You see how the deer still has his own antlers? I'm going to remove both branches here. One of the things we might consider doing here is using generative fill to remove the antlers altogether so that we can't see them. I'm going to select the lasso tool and just go over the deer's antlers. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're trying to get a little bit of the background. What we've done here is selected that area around the deer's antlers, and we're going to be asking generative fill to change it for us, to make it let the machine think of something. So I'll click generative fill, and I'm not going to enter anything in this text box because generative fill will look at the background and generate based on that. I'll click generate, and it removed the deer's antlers very well. Let's see what our other options were. When you use generative fill, it gives you 3 options to choose from. That's 1. This is 2. It gave the deer new, different kind of antlers. 3. Ooh, this one looks the best. So all I did there was selected the things that I wanted to mask, and generative fill gave me this masked layer. It didn't actually remove the antlers. It masked them out. I can turn that fill layer off and on. Now I can put the branches back in. And now I'll link my 2 branch layers together by selecting both of them. Hold down the Shift key and select both layers. Then I'll press the Control key and bring up this menu and select Link Layers. Now when I move these branches, they will move as one. And I can just place them on the sides of the deer's head again, but it's not a perfect fit now. So I'll press Command T to bring up the transformation box again, move this Discover thing, and turn them. Now, because I don't think it's exactly right, I'm going to unlink these 2 layers because I want to move just the left side branch. Let's press Command ++ to zoom in some and see what we're doing here. That's okay. I'll look at the right side branch. Doesn't really look like it's on his head, so we'll put this over here. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll press Command 0 so we can see the whole thing. Lovely. So that's one way you can use generative fill to remove things from the background if you want to give that a shot. And then you would save this as a PDF and submit it on Blackboard. File, save as, Photoshop PDF, Parker tutorial. Click save there, choose OK, save PDF. Yes, it's fine to preserve Photoshop editing capabilities, unless you're sending something that you want to reduce the file size as much as possible, and then submit through Blackboard. And that's that. Thanks for your attention. Please let me know if you have any questions. As always, I am J.A. Parker at atlantatech.edu. Bye.